everyone, and welcome to a bit of a video that I'm thinking about putting together for this trip. So we're heading down to Melbourne for the Will Machado gathering. By we I mean myself. It's a solo trip. The Will Machado gathering is a yearly, every second week in September. It's a yearly get together by the Will Machado clubs from Australia, across Australia and New Zealand. Let's get past this car. So basically what we do is we come together in Melbourne on the Saturday and have a competition, and then on the Sunday we have seminars run by Hegan Machado. So basically Friday morning, here we are Friday morning, I'll fly down from the Central Coast, head to Newcastle, catch the plane down to Melbourne, get up tomorrow morning. I'll have the competition. The draw's not out yet. I'm not sure who I'm competing with or what division I'm in, but I'll find that out today sometime. I've entered weight division 88 kilos and open weight, so Master 4 black belt. So 2023, this is my 10th gathering that I'll be attending in a row, 10th consecutive gathering. So that's sort of the reason why I thought I'd put this bit of a video together, just to show people what I've been doing for the last 10 years, well 12 years actually. So it's my 10th gathering in a row, but because of COVID we missed two of them were postponed. So it's taken me 12 years to do 10 in a row, if that makes sense. The gathering, sometimes I've jokingly described it as like the Lord of the Rings scene, where all the wizards come together from all over the lands, come together and have a bit of a competition to see whose spells, whose magic is the best, and it also helps us stay connected. So by staying connected, we're stronger as a group, and individually it helps. What I look forward to more than anything on these trips is to connect with, the other people that I've met over the years that share the same passion, the same thoughts, the same lineage, the same history that I do. We have a lot in common. A lot of other school owners, we've got a lot in common as far as what we've done over the years and our journey. So that's what I look forward to as well, is connecting up with those guys. So the Will Machado organisation, let's talk quickly about that. And I guess my history with it, I guess just through location, I looked up my local school where I was training up in the Upper Hunter near Muswellbrook, and the local closest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school to me was at a town called Singleton, which is about 45 minutes away from Muswellbrook. And there's a guy called Sean Kirkwood. He was a black belt, which was pretty special back in those days. There wasn't a lot of black belts around. Even back then, that was 2010. Sean was teaching classes 2 nights a week at a local church hall. Back in the day when I first started, we did Monday night, which was there wasn't no-gi submission grappling. it was MMA or shoot fighting. Or, the class was called MMA, which was basically shorts and rash guard, boxing gloves, shinnies, MMA gloves, and we just trained MMA. And Thursday night was gi night. We just did BJJ in a gi. So that's how I did my first sort of 3 years of training. Got my blue belt there. So yeah, Sean was one of the original Machado black belts in New South Wales, one of the first guys in New South Wales. Learning BJJ from John Will, his coach. At that stage, Sean and his guys, John Simon, Anthony Lange, these sort of guys were travelling down to Geelong. They were driving to Geelong after John had gone to the States and learnt some stuff from the Machado brothers, Egan, Jean-Jacques, Carlos. Coming back to Australia, and then the guys from all over the country would head over to Geelong to John's school to learn the latest stuff that John had picked up. So it was every piece of knowledge, when those guys started, when Sean started, was like gold nuggets. There was nothing, no videos, no YouTube, no Instagram, no books. There's nothing. So every single technique, John might come back from the States with, he's learnt 4 techniques, and people from all over the country would, get in their car and drive for 20 hours to drive down there and learn 4 techniques, go home for a year, and then come back and try it again. So the pilgrimage down to Melbourne, has been a long history of people travelling to Melbourne to see John and learn jiu-jitsu. So when I first started with Sean, we were lucky enough that John Will would run a seminar in Newcastle at either Sean's school or another school Sean taught at, Hunter Valley Martial Arts in Warners Bay, Newcastle area, Lake Macquarie. So from basically when I started, twice a year, John Will would come up and run a seminar at Sean's schools. So I'd had access to John basically from the start of my jiu-jitsu. And I was probably with Sean, moved to the Central Coast, started my own school, and was still with Sean for another year or 2, but I never missed a John Will seminar. He's probably had the biggest influence on my teaching and my coaching style, how I teach classes, how I present ideas, how I study. So John's always had, a really big impact on what I know and how I pass on information and stuff like that. So, I'd been training 18 months or something. The guys from Sean's school, they were talking about heading to Melbourne, in September one year, and we should go down and go to this gathering, this competition. I'd never been to a competition before or knew anything about competing in competition. I'd done other martial arts at competition, but I'd never been to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition. I didn't know what that was, never seen one. So I was pretty keen. I'd competed at other martial arts forms. I'd been to Melbourne the previous year for National All Styles, which is like a stand-up style traditional martial arts competition. So I'd actually had some experience in packing up my stuff and going to Melbourne to compete nationally in a national competition. So I was like, yeah, that sounds good. My sister was living in Melbourne, so it's an opportunity to get down there, see my sister, stay there, go and see what this gathering thing was all about. And I think I was maybe a 3-stripe white belt at the time. A couple of the guys at the gym also were saying, it's about 2 months before we go down to Melbourne, and there's a competition on in 2 weeks, in Sydney. we might go in this competition in Sydney as a bit of a warm-up, so we can get some comp experience before we go to Melbourne. And so I said to the guys, yeah, I'll jump in that with you guys and we'll go and have a look at that. So my first competition was about, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks before my first gathering. I remember entering gi and no gi weight divisions. Pretty sure that's what it was. I ended up winning both divisions, double gold in my first comp, which I was pretty stoked about. And then ended up going to Melbourne for my first gathering in 2012 as a white belt. Just did weight division and end up getting to the final. I won maybe 3 matches, I think, getting to the final, and then lost, got submitted in the final. Pretty close match, but just got worn out and got Americana from, I think it was Americana from Mount or top half guard, I can't remember. It's pretty buggered, I just remember that, I was exhausted. So that 2012, that was my first gathering. Basically, I went there as a white belt. Did the competition, as I said, got a silver medal, went to the white belt seminar the next day, and one of the things that really stood out for me was, at the seminar, was the amount of black belts that were there. Huge number of black belts, even then in 2010. I'd never seen, more than 1 black belt at any one time. I'm not sure how many were there, maybe 30 or 40, I can't remember. But every year what they did was they'd have a black belt photo, a group photo, and I remember standing there and watching all the black belts sort of stand together for a black belt photo, and I was just, even then, like as a white belt, I remember saying to myself, like, I would love to be in this photo. Like, imagine being in this photo. I had a bit of a background. As I said, I did martial arts before BJJ. When I started BJJ, like at that stage in 2012, I'd been doing Taekwondo for over 10 years. And even at Taekwondo, like I used to remember going to gradings and seeing people, like as a white belt and as a colour belt, I'd turn up to gradings and you'd see, the best black belts in the organisation at the gradings, and like you'd be standing there warming up and stretching, and then a certain person might walk in and you'd see them walk in and you just knew you were going to get your ass kicked, like your head and your shoulders would drop. And I just remember sort of thinking like, oh geez, that guy's here, that's no good, And then it wasn't long in that martial art, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I just remembered, had a bit of a moment once when I walked into a grading and I kind of looked around as I walked in the door, and a lot of people were turning around and looking at me, and I could just see the twig to me that all these people were kind of looking around, looking at me going like, oh no, that guy's here, gonna get our ass kicked. And so even back then I had that thought in myself that if I just keep going, I could be that person. Like that person's just it's just a man that they just didn't quit, they just kept doing the thing, and then that's how you get things done. It was just one task at a time. So I remember going to my first gathering and standing there watching that black belt, initial black belt photo, and thinking to myself, and I knew that if I just kept training and just kept turning up, I could possibly be in that photo one day if I just do what those guys did, which was just turn up to training, get your ass kicked, and keep coming till you were better, and then find a way to stay on the mat, and I'd get there. So thankfully, my wife Kerry, amazing support over the years, to allow me to not only practice jiu-jitsu and other martial arts over the years, but to support my yearly trips down here for 10 years now. It's an expensive thing to do. I'm now this is our 10th year of me owning a school. So for 10 years I've left my own school. Other people have to teach classes while I'm away. run the school. So really appreciate the support of the team, especially now at Anaconda. You know, we're full-time school. We're 6 days a week, 21 classes a week. You know, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't get to where we are without obviously the support of my wife Kerry and all the guys at Anaconda, all the coaches, staff, members. Amazing. Just to allow me to come down here and do this every year. So yeah, over the years, just going down every year. I've been down here, competed at every belt level. I've medalled at every belt level except blue belt, and I've won gold at, I think, purple twice and brown belt once. So 3 times I've won the comp. But I've basically, I've been pretty successful at this competition, which has been really satisfying. Because I'm competing in front of my coach and my coach's coach and my coach's coach's coach, that sort of stuff, you know. So especially running your own school, it's a satisfying thing to look like you know what you're doing. Something else is like important for me is, where does my knowledge come from, and where does my rank come from, and where does our jiu-jitsu come from? You know, the lineage, it's often talked about, you know, how you should be proud of it, etc., blah blah blah. Like for me, I stumbled upon Will Machado, but it was like winning the lottery for me. Like I probably didn't, you know, you go to the school that you go to start. You don't know any different, but knowing what I know, it's definitely where I'd want to be anyway. Let's get to the end of the freeway here. As I said, like when I was up in the Upper Hunter, you know, I was under Sean. I moved to the Central Coast, and there was no other clubs. There was clubs around in Erina, obviously. You had the Gracie Gumata and Gracie Baja at Erina, which it's a good hour drive each direction in traffic. So it was an hour basically back to Warners Bay, where Sean was teaching anyway. So when I moved to the Central Coast, I kept driving back to Warners Bay. So I was working in Hornsby, which is the other direction. It's an hour south from where we live, and then training is an hour north from where we live. So I would finish, drive down the M1 to Hornsby, work all day, drive back to hour back to home, an hour back to Warners Bay, train, and then an hour home. So I did that for a bit, and then just basically made the decision. Mitchell, my son, he was a white belt, I was a blue belt. We just sort of said, oh, let's just buy some mats and just train locally, at least, you know, once a week, and then we'll still go back and train with the guys once a week, but we'll split it up. And that's how it started. And then over time, I just started looking for other places to train down in Sydney while I got talking to some guys at a competition one day, and we're talking about Elvis Sinisic's gym at, where was that first one? The SPMA gym, wasn't Moorebank, I'm trying to think of the other one. Concord, at Concord. So that wasn't too far away from my office. So I started, because also I wanted to get roles in with better people, get some quality roles in with quality people. So I started leaving work at lunchtime, going and getting a session in at Concord, and lunch, the daytime session. That's where I run into Tony Pycroft. A lot of the time he was running the daytime class at Concord for Elvis and Anthony. And then I'd go back to work an hour late to make up for the hour or hour and a half, whatever it was, that I was away from the office for, work that back, and then still head to Warners Bay when I could, and then still doing the classes at Warnervale at our own school. That turned into 2 nights a week, and it eventually got to the stage where I just couldn't get back up to Newcastle and Warners Bay, so I ended up talking to Elvis and ended up going over to him full time as my coach, which is still where we're at today, still under Elvis, and still being Machado BJJ was super important. Going under Elvis was still a Machado affiliate. So for me, it's not. As far as styles go, I like the style of the Machado Jiu-Jitsu. Machado Jiu-Jitsu, for whatever reason, they're Australian people, Australian born and bred, I guess you'd say, or not Brazilian by birth, and I just like that style. Like for me, there's no one is more Australian Jiu-Jitsu than Will Machado. We are the original Australian guys doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I really like that. I like the fact that we're the original Australian Jiu-Jitsu. We've always, as part of Will Machado as well, we've always been in control of what we teach and what we do and how we do it. No one's ever been above us saying, you must teach this, you must do that, you can and can't do this. We've always been independent but connected, and that's another thing that I love about what we do. I'm in control of what I teach, how I teach it, who I teach it to, who does what. I've got complete control over what I'm doing. So that's being part of the Will Machado organisation is super important for me. And there's nothing wrong with Davo or Robbo teaching people in their garage. That's all good. That's how things started. But for me, where we came from and who we represent, is really important. When I hand someone an Anaconda blue belt or an Anaconda purple belt, whatever it might be, a black belt, it's a Will Machado black belt. It's a Machado Brothers black belt. It's a Elvis Sinisic black belt, and I think it should be held as something that's a high level of achievement. It represents something really special. So I just wanted to let especially all our own guys at Anaconda, maybe even some of the experienced guys, but definitely some of the new people that come in to be able to watch this video and understand. Just like me, if you've walked into Anaconda and you knew no different, you've won the lottery by coming into our place. It's been a bit of a tumultuous week at Anaconda. Some stuff's happened here and there, and it's just part of running a business, dealing with people. It's part of the business. business dealing with people coming and going. Sometimes you doubt. Well, this week I had a split second where I doubted, was I not being high quality? Was I not providing the highest quality of service? Was I not providing one of the best places around to learn jiu-jitsu and stuff like that? And it was just something that caught me off guard. But then, you know, after thinking about it for 5 minutes and sort of just reviewing it in my head, like, you know, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that what we have at Anaconda, what we're able to provide people is the absolute highest level of quality of facility, experience, training partners, syllabus, classes. Like, people just don't understand how good they've got it there. People that just walk in and think it's just normal to have what we've got. It's absolutely not normal. And just from my point of view, like, people can come and go and they can do whatever they want. If anyone ever leaves Anaconda, I just say, you know, like, yeah, good luck, all the best, and the door's always open, and a lot of people come back. And but I just think it's their loss. Like, it's all good. As I said this week, you can't be everything to everyone. We do our stuff. We're amazing at it, and if you want to join us, good stuff. And if not, you just go find your tribe, and all the best to you. I've always described, like, what your jiu-jitsu academy should look like is, for your members, if there was an analogy, like a drawing, if you drew a caricature or whatever of your academy, it shouldn't look like a prison with a big fence around it. In other words, why are people there? Because they walked in and then they couldn't get out. They felt like they couldn't leave. I'm trapped. I can't go anywhere else. That's not what your academy should look like. Your academy should look like an oasis in the desert, where, you know, everything around it's sand, and then your academy is green grass, palm trees, nice pool, deck, you know, comfy chairs, people serving cocktails and waving a palm fronds to keep you cool. That, you know, why are people there? Because it's an awesome place to be, and I want to be there. That's how I've always thought an academy should look like, and that's how I've always driven things. So anyway, I'm almost at the airport. There's a bit of background in what this trip's all about. I'll take some footage. We'll get some comp footage. We'll get around, talk to a few people tomorrow. We'll go to our Sunday session, the Gathering of the Wizards. Check that out. I'll get some video and have a chat to a few people there as well, and then we'll get back Sunday night, and we'll be back at the academy on Monday, ready to go again. New week. Just lastly, the other thing, this trip every year, 10 years, so 10 years in a row, I'm going to tell everyone about it. I'll keep banging on about it, because it's been, every year it's a commitment, and it's an effort. 10 years of effort in a row. Almost all of them have just been by myself, like a solo trip, because it's important. And again, just thanks to everyone at the academy. Kerry, coaching staff, all the guys. What this trip represents a lot of the time is an awesome part of the year. It's my favourite part of the year. Winter's been really shit this year for some reason. Everyone's been sick all the time, and it's been darker, it's been colder and wetter for some reason. It just feels like that to me. But every year when I do this gathering trip, it just before it starts to warm up here on the Central Coast, New South Wales. Springs, we're 2 weeks into spring. It always feels like it's just getting warmer. We've battled our way. We've trained all through winter. The winter soldiers have kept training through winter. We're trying to keep your membership going and motivated through winter. It just starts to warm up. You already get the sprinklings of new people coming to the gym and getting that new people energy, which is awesome. And then going down to Melbourne, it's always cold and freezing every time we go down there. But then when you come back again, it seems even warmer and even better. And then the last 2 weeks of September is always, recruitment season. People start joining. It's our big recruiting time, is the end of September, start of, and then October, just smash recruiting. That's when I really put time and effort into our beginner program and filling that up, getting that, smashing that out. So here we go again. And then you've also got the this year. Well, we have that beginner program through October, but I mean these are the best months to train, I believe. Just you get that more light. We open the whole gym up. All the doors are open. It just feels amazing. Lots of new energy. Classes are packed. Heaps of people on the mat every night. Really get that good energy. And then into our last team night. The end of this year is going to be massive. I think it's the 16th of December. It's our 10th anniversary. As I said, the Academy's 10 years old on the 6th of December. So this December is going to be huge. Can't wait for that last team night of the year before we finish our 10th year. 10 years at the gathering, 10 years of Anaconda. Let's go.